We need to pull it up.
Okay, awesome. Here we are. Welcome to another version of Learning Circles. Hello, everybody.
Hey. How are you?
Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous.
At least I got over the flu now. So
yes.
We're good.
You look very healthy.
Oh, thank you.
You look much more engaged.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
that was rough last time, man. But
So-
you know, hopefully I don't get a sinus infection from all the work that they're doing downstairs with all they're finishing our basement, all kinds of drywall.
Yeah, I remember that.
But I have my medicine.
There you go.
That's not. And
The Atlanta people are gonna cut.
Aren't you in Atlanta? Shouldn't you be drinking Coke?
Yeah, I just like to defy authority.
Native product placement. We should get
Right.
paid for that.
We don't get it.
5 clicks from that.
Dang. All right, well, cool. Let's just go ahead and let's go right down the line again. We don't have as many people on this time, but let's do little introductions. Tell everybody who we are. Start with you, Craig.
All right. Well, as you said, I'm Craig Wiggins. I am a community manager at Advanced Distributed Learning, and I am an XAPI evangelist, which means that I will try very hard once again not to bring up XAPI more than 10 times.
And he already brought it up 3 times just in that intro.
So I'm down 3. Down. All right.
I'm Enzo Silva. I'm a learning strategist here at SAP.
Where is here?
Yeah, right.
Oh, here. Here means my home office in Atlanta, Georgia.
Outstanding. And I'm Brent Schlenker. I'm the Chief Learning Officer at litmus.com, part of Calidus Cloud, and I'm in Phoenix, Arizona.
Hey.
Yeah.
So this is what number is this for us, guys? 4? 5?
587.
It sounds better, huh?
There's a lot of unofficial takes and secret episodes. No,
Yeah,
I think
the secret episodes that add up to 10.
right.
Yeah, good time. So what have we covered? We've talked a little bit about XAPIs. We've talked a little bit about, actually a lot about MOOCs. Seemed to be a big hot topic.
Mm-hmm.
But today we are in waiting and stalling, trying to kill time, waiting for our colleague and friend Joe Ganci to join us, and he's going to talk to us about tools. He is an exceptionally knowledgeable tool guy in the realm of e-learning. And,
yeah, I'm really excited about that. Actually, I've read a lot of Joe's stuff, and in past incarnations of work, I've definitely paid a lot of attention to what he has to say in terms of recommendations. It's kind of hard where I am right now because I'm kind of in a meta position where we're looking at all tools for a particular purpose, and I instead of being a practitioner who's desperately looking for the best tool or the best application of this sort of thing, I'm just trying to get a sense of what the strengths and the weaknesses of things across the board, and hopefully we can talk to Joe about that. I'm looking forward to it.
I think Joe is.
You think?
I think we just lost Enzo. I think the guy's working down in his basement just cut his network connection.
Yeah.
He's on conferencing. Can you not hear me?
Oh, there you go.
I was saying that I think we'll get a lot of that with Joe today, even if it's just 15 minutes of his time. He'll be here in 5 or so, because you cannot go to an industry event without running into Joe or his face somewhere in the session notes and all that kind of stuff. He's pretty good. He knows his tools.
Yeah, absolutely. He was always and still is a crowd favorite at the e-learning guild events for his workshops that he does on the different tools that he's become quite skilled at. So it'll be.
I wonder if he's going to be at TK next week.
He will. Yeah, we just talked about that. He'll be there.
Awesome. So speaking of TK, you guys all going?
No. Yeah, Enzo's going to be the lucky one.
You are, Enzo?
Yeah, I'll be there. We'll be talking about gamification of all things.
Oh.
Oh, outstanding. Well, listen, you're going to have to bring your iPhone or a video camera or something and be our man on the street and bring a report back.
I will.
Yeah.
I'll try to remember everything. I'll take notes and all that.
Remember everything. All right. So every note it is.
Bring us some live video and we can edit it together and play it and talk over it.
Yeah, right.
Maybe we do meet. I'll see what the schedule looks like. Maybe we do one next week live from there with some expert that we find on the spot.
All right. They're doing a TK chat, I know, at some point
Oh, cool.
during the week. So
Where's the chat on LinkedIn?
I
On
don't.
Twitter.
I don't know actually. I need probably. Yeah, that's a good point. It might be Twitter, which may or may not be so cool. But yeah, I'll see if I can find out. I'm not one of the cool kids that gets to go this year. I've got. I'm looking across the year for ADL travel, and I'm looking at all the times that I'll be leaving home. So this unfortunately won't be one of those weeks. So, and so you have to have fun.
There's a whole lot of year left. You got to pick and choose.
That's the problem. I know. Like, at some point in the future, we're gonna have to do an episode on conferences and just kind of, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the future. Just like
I was thinking exactly the same because of that question I asked you guys in private the other day about the differences between one conference and the other. What your take was on it.
Yeah.
See why each conference is worth going to. That I think that'd be a nice overview of the landscape of the events that we have around here, or the main ones at least in the U.S.
I feel like there are a lot of newer, smaller ones now that are coming to prominence. I know that George Mason University here in Virginia is kind of reviving their an e-learning conference that they held for the past couple of years, and I'm looking forward to going to that in 2015. But it's one of those things that if you know about it, you're definitely going to go. But if you don't know, you may not show up. It's a good event, but it's one of many good small events that are happening around the country this year. So if anything, I'd like to see more focus on smaller events and also virtual events. I know that there are a lot of pros and cons, involved in, how to get people together virtually, whether people can participate properly, and have the back channel to talk to each other. And I hope that people are going to be working on that more often. I think a lot of people. I found in my current position that there are a lot more people in a lot more places than I can get to efficiently to be able, and I want to talk to them and have them talk to me. So, yeah, we'll see.
And that was a topic I think we discussed in the last Hangout, wasn't it? We had a guest here that was talking about the young conferences and stuff like that, or the learning boot camps or learning camps and stuff.
Yeah, I think we did.
It seems to be a trend that is going that is growing steadily, especially the past couple of years or so. The idea of having unconferences and smaller events like that, people are seeing the value of that in education as well. Seem to be a trend more for developers, web designers, and all that kind of stuff, and people that are developing apps and websites and stuff like that. But seems like education is picking that up more lately, don't you think?
I think so. I feel like, I totally agree with the point that it seems to be kind of leaning more towards development, developers and kind of a coding world in their willingness to do that kind of thing. But I hope the learning world is heading in that direction.
Yeah, seems to be. Let us check if Joe.
No, he needs the link to get in.
Let me give him the link.
Tell Joe to go check his Google Plus feed, or I think that invite should show up there.
Oh, there it is.
And we pause for station identification.
I know. I was like, we're watching the door, like, coming in? Is he here yet?
We
fix my hair.
We should get that tone. This has been a test of the emergency broadcast system.
I'm gonna cue in the trumpet here for when he does join. Let's embarrass him a little bit.
Okay, I'm all for that. Let's do it.
Perfect. It looks like we have 6 viewers, in case anybody was wondering.
Oh, okay. So, hello, 6 viewers. I belatedly sent out a tweet and
the chat box, or if they're just viewing on YouTube, I'm not exactly sure. This is our experiment for everybody. So
I wish the viewers would join so we could talk to them instead. There's Joe, yay!
Hello.
Hey, Joe.
Work.
I'm in a blue area. Looks like I'm all blue.
That's a really interesting mood lighting there.
Nice aura you have around you.
Right.
You need to get a little bit of white balance going on your video cam there, Joe.
Yeah, really, it looks strange.
Let's
Well,
just
it looks
let's just
cool.
call it special effects.
We already introduced you here, Joe, with very nice things to say about you and you being present in every single event the industry has to offer. I don't know how you do it, but
Okay, sorry, I had I had the video going at the same time, so I was hearing double. Now I can finally understand what you're saying. My apologies. This was a last-minute request, and I wasn't really quite ready, but I'm ready now. And yes, as far as the lighting is concerned, I'm not quite sure how to fix that, but let me try to see if I
that
can't
looks
make
good.
it look a little bit better.
Don't worry about it. Hey, Joe, we know you're on limited time, so don't
Yeah.
sweat it. It's a Google
Okay.
Hangout thing. The color doesn't really matter. Don't sweat it. Let's jump right in and talk a little bit about the tools and stuff. The blue looks kind of cool.
Okay, and I did give you guys a link, by the way, that you can post somewhere if you haven't already, regarding not too far along, not too far in the past handout that I made on the state of e-learning tools. And so I'm happy to talk to you a little bit about where we are now and where we're going next, if that's what you're interested in. Of course, I'll take any questions, anything like that that you wish as well. So, should I just start talking, or do you want to start with any
Cool.
questions?
No, I just posted it on the G Plus Hangout
Okay.
list, so the people that are viewing, we do have a few viewers, can pick it up there. Let me just see.
Do you want us to share it? We could open it up. I could open it up and share my screen with you if you'd like.
Oh no, it's fine. I think it's quite an extensive document, so it's just there for you to take a look at what as time permits. But let me just tell you a little bit about where I see things happening right now. Yes, absolutely. Authoring tools is my main focus most of the time. It's what I really love to work with and talk about. I'm always learning new ones because to me it's exciting to try something different in a different tool and see if I can make it do something I couldn't do in a different tool, for instance. And then be able to combine the strengths of different tools to have the best possible e-learning. Because to me, it's all about the learner experience. If the learner is trying to learn how to do a surgical procedure, you want to make sure that the tool you use is going to allow you to create the kinds of interactivity that would allow, and not give them, in essence, a series of multiple choice questions to test their ability to perform heart surgery. So it's all focused on the learner in the end. But to get there, of course, means that we have to create the very best design possible, instructional design possible. And to be able to get that, we have to be able to use the best tools for the process. Okay, so should I just keep talking? Because I got a few other things I can say.
Oh yeah, keep talking.
Okay, so
Love what I hear.
the one thing I like to do is to classify tools in basically three different categories now, because they're very distinct from each other. We have your PowerPoint add-in types of tools, and those include Articulate Studio and Adobe Presenter and iSpring Suite, Zenler Studio, and there's a couple of others out there too that all are plugins into PowerPoint. Then you have a second category, which are the tools you actually install locally on your machines that you don't launch from PowerPoint. They often can incorporate PowerPoint, but that's a separate issue. You don't start in PowerPoint. You start with a blank slate most of the time. And then the third, which has become very, very popular now, are the cloud-based tools. And each of these categories has quite a few different tools included. So if you're looking at the PowerPoint add-ins, that's probably the smallest group of tools. We have maybe fewer than 10. The installed, well, if you really counted them all up, we're talking about a couple of hundred, but of all of those, we're talking about maybe 10 to 12 are the most commonly used. And they would include things like Adobe Captivate, Articulate Storyline, Lectora, Inspire, and a number of other tools in that category too. Then you have your cloud-based, and cloud-based has become, just as is true in every field, the main place to go now for newer tools. So you have tools like ZebraZaps up there, and well, a whole ton of others as well. And each of these areas has advantages and disadvantages. So if you look at PowerPoint add-ins, well, they're easy to use. They get you up and running quickly. But what often happens with those is the more the more the in essence, you cannot have a tool that's both extremely powerful and as well as having it be extremely easy to use. The easier it is to use usually means fewer features are available to you, because the more features are available to you, the more time it's going to take to learn it. So even if every feature in a tool is easy, the fact that one tool may have 25 features and it may have 5, well, the 25 feature tool is going to be more powerful and also be less easy to use, only because you've got more choices that you have to choose from. So, anyway, there's that. In the PowerPoint add-in tools, you tend to have, of course, you're restricted to the fact that you're working primarily in PowerPoint, and PowerPoint itself is used for a lot of the presentation type of material, after which you're adding in your more multimedia types of elements like audio and video, audio narration, video, etc. You usually have choices regarding some kinds of canned interaction types that can be very, very useful as well. But in the end, you don't have the freeform ability to create, for instance, high-end software or soft skills types of simulations. But hey, they serve a purpose and they're very popular as well. The install tools, as I said earlier, include things like Adobe Captivate, Articulate Storyline, and etc. These are the top two, but Lectora and many, many others are also in widespread use. These tools, there's a bit of confusion going on today regarding cloud-based versus installed, because, for instance, some of the installed tools, like Adobe Captivate, have what is called a subscription model. And so people hear subscription model and they think, oh, that must be it's cloud-based. Nope, it's still a tool that you install on your system. It's still a tool that you have to download the installer and install. You just happen to be paying for it by the month rather than paying for it outright as a license, a one-time fee. Now, that can be very, very inexpensive comparatively, because that's what I do. It's $20 a month for Captivate versus buying it for $8.99. But it's still a tool that you're not using in the cloud. Right. Then the cloud-based tools are usually have their own sets of upsides and downsides. The downside being, which is kind of not that difficult now, is you got to be online to use them, obviously. And as such, that means if you are on a plane that doesn't have wireless and you really want to get some work done, well, you kind of can't do that. Right. If you're in areas where the bandwidth is not great, you kind of can't do that either. But a lot of the tools that are online now, because we have such good connections nowadays in most places, no problem. We can get on, and of course the advantage is we can log off of a machine and go somewhere else, even in another part of the world, and continue working where we left off without having to worry about taking files with us, because they're all in the cloud.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Joe, do you think that, I mean, in my past experience, I know that the divide between install tools and cloud tools has been pretty definite towards install tools. Do you see that lessening in 2015?
I certainly see more tools being created in the cloud now than, and I suspect truly that within a few years, install tools are not going to be around anymore. Well, they will be, but it's certainly not the more popular ones. I think it's going to be a question of almost everything is going to be in the cloud, and not just e-learning tools, but most tools, even Microsoft Word and so on. You can go in the cloud now to use that, and I think that with this, and to me, the irony, of course, is that hard drive space has become so cheap, but we really don't need it anymore.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, I see that happening more and more. 2015, I think any new tool that you see in 2015, I would say 8 out of 10, the chance is going to be it's going to be cloud-based. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure, because I'm seeing a pattern there where almost every new tool is cloud-based.
And another advantage, right, of these tools is that you can, well, at least with several of them, you can co-author it with a team. You can collaborate on creating it, whether it's a SME or another teammate, for example. Maybe you go in with content and a teammate comes in with the better graphics and all that kind of stuff because he's a media designer or she.
Absolutely, much easier to do because the files are in the cloud, so you're not having to transfer files across a network or anything like that. Yep, good point.
So, Joe, I hate to put you on the spot, but we've got a couple questions in our Q&A box here. So I want to. I'm going to ask the rudest question first from my friend James Kingsley. Joe wants to know, or James wants to know, what you think will be the best new authoring tool of 2015.
That's a new one. Well, certainly I'm not privy to every new tool coming out. So who knows? There may be something coming out in a month or two or three that I'm going to be looking at and going like, oh crap, that's fantastic. But I have no clue of right now because companies tend to keep things close to the vest for competitive purposes. They don't want to reveal things. Now, having said that, I do work with a lot of different tool companies, and they trust me to evaluate their tools often so that I can help them to create better versions of those tools. And yes, I have looked at newer tools before they've come out to help people, help companies along as well. But I can't say for sure I know exactly what tools are coming out this year. I can only say that I've been, if I'm looking at a trend, last year, Adobe Captivate came out at the end of May with version 8 and then later with 8.1. That wowed everybody because it came out with responsive design.
Right.
Because mobile has become such an important factor now, and responsive design simply means that you are able to design 4 different devices at the same time, and in a way that's rather easy to do, then it went a leap ahead. And that's what I called, by the way. You guys may know this. I have a monthly column that I write for the e-learning guild, Learning Solutions magazine, on tools. And so I just found out yesterday that my Captivate 8 article was one of the top. It was number 4 or 5 of all the hundreds that were printed last year, printed, online, because I think, and it's primarily not because of my great writing skills, I think it's because people are very, very interested in responsive design, and that's what Captivate came out with. Now, having said that, other tools are going to need to catch up, and if my guess is right, and mobile is becoming the not a unique way of delivering, but always an add-on. We're going to deliver this online. People are going to be taking it on their laptops and so on. But yeah, we want to have it work on a tablet as well. We want to have it work even on smartphones sometimes as well. Well, when you get that, and I work in e-learning every day. I create applications. I create learning applications every day for my clients. Almost all of them now are asking for mobile as well. And that just means I'm going to have to go to a tool that allows me to create a mobile version that's more customizable than simply creating a lowest common denominator version of e-learning that will work on everything. No, I want to create something that's going to look great on a desktop, that's going to include those desktop features, but also, have it be work correctly on a mobile with fewer of those options, perhaps, because they just won't work on mobile.
Joe, I think you touched on something that we wanted to discuss, which is mobile learning anyway, and I think it's something that might not be clear to everybody in the industry, especially those coming in now, would be that I think HTML5 just now stopped being a hype, right, and became really a reality, I would say, in the past year or so. I'm not sure. People are not talking about it like it's something new anymore, I guess. And now we got the responsive design, which Captivate 8 supports natively. What do you think? What's the difference between me just publishing something on a tool that also exports HTML5 versus doing something that's responsive design? Both from a design perspective, what I need to keep in mind when doing it, and what's really the end goal? What's the difference there?
Good question. Okay, so yeah, responsive design is definitely all built in HTML5, by the way. It's not something that's built in anything else. So, but the two things are not synonymous, because if you go to websites now, you just can jump around, go to different websites, and in each case you take your browser and you shrink its width. You're resizing it left and right. You can immediately see whether a website was built in a responsive design manner or not, because those that aren't will either not, the elements on the screen will not change at all. They'll stay put. In fact, you're going to hide things by moving back and forth. Or they're going to, the older method is that they're just sort of going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? things will not be fixed in place, but they're going to look like a mess. So
Right.
the responsive design ones, on the other hand, if you take the width of a browser and start moving it to the left, you see that things are adjusting themselves accordingly so they look good at every width resolution. And by the way, it's all about the width, because when we're talking about responsive design, height can be important, but it's the width that really matters. And so when you're looking at something on a tablet, you want to make sure that it's going to fit that way. Nobody wants to be scrolling left and right, ever. Up and down, we're quite used to that idea on a website, but not left and right. And so it's all about making sure things fit in the width, because if we have to absolutely scroll up and down, okay, you can deal with that. But we don't want to scroll left and right. So your question then is that any website can be built in HTML5, but only those that incorporate responsive design types of approaches will work. How does that work? It's really all about the CSS, cascading style sheets. The cascading style sheets are where you can define, if this resolution is in place, we're going to do this. We're going to have these kinds of placements and resizing and so on. And so you can have a list of those, and it's all dynamic. So when the browser is being resized, it's constantly, the CSS is constantly kicking in, and as soon as it reaches a certain resolution, because that's defined in the CSS file, it will, bam, change the look and feel of the course. Does that make sense? So it's not just HTML5, it's really focused on the CSS side of it as well. That's really where responsive design comes in, is in defining it. It's JavaScript as well, of course, but it's really meant, but it's all being defined within the CSS. And by the way, HTML5, when we talk about HTML5, we're really talking about a combination of three things, which we used to call dynamic HTML, DHTML at one point, but it's really, the HTML5 is the tagged language that we're all used to from the past. It's the 5th version of HTML. But then JavaScript and CSS, the three together, are really what we mean when we talk about HTML5.
Awesome.
Does that answer your question?
Yep, totally.
Okay.
I just want to take a quick moment and note that James Kingsley is actually in the house apparently now. He's on the call with us. So hey, James.
Hey, do you want me to jump? You want me to turn him on?
Oh, is he not? Is he muted?
Yeah, hold on, I got him right there.
If you guys are done with me, I certainly can be excused and go back to my client meeting. Otherwise, if there's anything else from me,
Hey, Joe, thank you so much. We do have I have one quick question for you, if you don't mind answering it quickly. You know of any new tools for gamification? This is a topic we were discussing off camera earlier.
For gamification, that's a really good question, and one that I have not researched totally yet, but it's become an interest of mine in the last few weeks because I'm getting a lot of requests for that now. And so I've been looking into that, and if you ask me again in maybe 2 months, I probably will have a better answer for you, but no.
Right.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'll just Twitter stalk you and then find my answer in 2 months.
Yeah.
All right.
So we
Nice
can find you at elearningjoe.com, right?
elearningjoe.com is my website, and you can write me at joe@elearningjoe.com.
And handle on Twitter is Joe as well.
Okay, and I'll say anybody who's going to be at ASTD or ATD TK next week in Las Vegas, I'll be there. So
we'll see you there.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, bye, Joe. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, I don't know if James has any video or not, but it looks like, oh, now it's now Google Plus has taken over again.
Oh,
so whoever's watching, I totally recommend going to elearningjoe.com. The guy has some awesome articles and resources there. Also, his column, I think, is the Toolkit or something like that on the old Learn Solutions magazine.
Yeah, I think on learningsolutionsmag.com is the Toolkit. Yeah.
I posted a link in chat. I'm not sure if people will be able to see it later, but if you look up Joe there, the Toolkit column, you'll find some good hints on authoring tools there.
Yep, I posted it on the events, the Learning Circles Hangout page too, in the comments. So underneath this video, so it's good. So it looks like we have James on board with us now. Hello, James. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, all. I'm James Kingsley. I think I've probably met most of you before at one conference or another, or via an email exchange here or there. Thanks for inviting me.
No, thanks for being here.
I'm sorry Joe had to leave so soon. I was just getting into what he was saying there.
Yeah, actually, I had a bunch of other questions for him, but we'll just make up things about offering
Yeah,
tools.
he's at a very important client meeting right now, and I was glad he made it. At least for 30 minutes. But we were just touching the surface of the topic there, the source.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing about HTML5, I really think it's cool that it's so much now. It's ingrained in people's minds, like in our field at least, right? It's not so much of a new hype anymore. People kind of know their way around it. They know when to expect and why to expect to use HTML5 and all that kind of stuff. Now tools come in and making responsive design, just publishing responsive design out of it. I think that should be hopefully a big trend in 2015 as well, right? With Captivate 8 starting that trend. What are your guys' take on responsive design versus mobile first? What does mobile first mean? Because a lot of people are talking about mobile first out there, but what does that really mean? And when does responsive come in? Because responsive is not really mobile first, is it? It's more mobile second.
I don't know if I agree with that, but I'm gonna toss this to James first because I'll talk all day.
Well, I'll say that so far I haven't been sold on the use of responsive design for e-learning, because the examples I've seen or when I'm talking to folks are usually, on a desktop or maybe even a tablet, you might have this interaction where there's a drag and drop and stuff, but that's going to be hard to do on a phone, so on a phone we're going to scale it down and change that drag and drop to just multiple select or something. But then I started wondering from a design point of view, if you didn't need that drag and drop in there, if you didn't care if all users got that drag and drop, why did you design it to begin with? So you're sort of segmenting your audience and you're cheating the folks on the phone. They don't get the full experience that the folks on the desktop got.
Yeah. Do people? So maybe I play the best role of the e-learning heretic. So do our users, maybe whether it's the new crop of users out there or old school users, however you want to look at it, when I look at content on the internet that is just the content that everybody views, right? It seems like we're the only ones that get so concerned about this, right? I mean,
about device specificity or
yeah, well, just about the differences between when we're doing the interactivity and all that kind of stuff. It feels to me like there's are there other types of more simplistic media? Like, let's just say let's go with the idea that people are very, very used to watching things on YouTube, right? Like, YouTube has become a huge thing, and people love watching really short videos. And watching YouTube on your mobile device, any mobile device, is very, very easy and extremely user-friendly. And, so what, is there going to be a trend in that direction, let's say, where it's consuming small chunks of videos in the way that people consume content on YouTube versus wanting to have this fully interactive learning experience? Granted, a lot of it is based on design and the needs and all of that. I get that, but in general, right? If we're looking at how people are consuming content regularly on the internet, it's almost like, why don't we kind of squeeze the learning content into that space instead of always trying to invent our own style?
Well, part of it is, budget, obviously. We're almost none of us are working in situations where we have an unlimited budget and resources. So, if you come up with a good, engaging learning experience that actually may yield, positive outcomes regarding performance, you want to kind of push that out and make that available as much as possible. People want to squeeze as much juice out of that as they can get. I think that, and kind of responding to both you and what Enzo said about mobile first, maybe being mobile second, the more I think about it, I think maybe it should be that way, which also kind of probably puts me into the heretic basket with you, Brent. I think that we should be designing learning experiences that fit the context in which we want people to be learning. So that includes thinking about specifically what type of device they'll be using. If we're smart and lucky and clever, maybe we can actually spread the experiences across several devices, befitting the particular situations, which leads us into the into the realm of transmedia and other things. But I think that maybe a little too carefully we've been following some of the trends established by web design and not really thinking about why we're actually creating things. So.
Well, yeah, I guess to extend upon my point, it's like other businesses aren't so concerned about it. Their idea is, how do we make this content that we have just viewable on all sorts of different devices, right? And I always throw YouTube out there as an example because it just works. I can't think of any device out there that you can't just tap, 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 boom, and you're instantly watching a video. Not only that, but they've got overlays, right? So there is this sense now of interactivity within a YouTube video. It's very, a lot of times when I look at it, it's very, very similar to the early days of e-learning, right? The very simplistic interactions and what you can do. But it's not always going to be that simple, and
so, a lot of that is rooted in the interface, obviously. And maybe that's part of what we're looking at, is that I think, and this goes back to authoring tools, and I'd like to actually bring that back. The interfaces right now associated with mobile devices, if we're talking mobile first, are tap, squeeze, pinch, drag. These are different maybe than right click or doing things with the mouse that we might be accustomed to. I think most authoring tools that people are working on are still rooted in the desktop paradigm. So I think when some of that changes and people are actually building for an experience where people are actually using their hands, so maybe that should be the division. Is not so much mobile or desktop or whatever. It should be, how are you manipulating, how are you interacting with the content? Are you using your hands directly, or are you doing something else? Are you using gestures? Are you grabbing a mouse and actually doing things traditionally? So
yeah, for instance, I still see a lot of courses that are intended for multiple devices that use hover states. Where the mouse hovers over this, information pops up, and of course you can't hover on a tablet. And
I've been thinking. I've been trying to figure out. I spent probably an embarrassing amount of hours in my last job trying to figure out on my own what a gesture-based or I guess digit-based analog would be for the hover state, and I could not figure it out. And I'm cheered to say that I don't think anybody else has figured it out yet either. But
long press.
Long press, just kind of like stick it on there.
But I guess the question then is, do we need it?
No, we don't.
Yeah.
No, we don't. No.
So I think a big issue too is YouTube. You mentioned the YouTube example, right? We have the desktop, the web one that is regular. That if you see it on a mobile device as well, on a mobile browser, then it is responsive. It resizes, and you get a very similar experience anyway. And then you have the app that is native to whatever mobile device you're using that you install. As learning companies, realistically, or departments, realistically speaking, do we have the time and the budget to develop both a desktop experience, which most of our users are probably going to have, or a several native applications that then we're betting on? Do they have Android? Do they have iOS? Do we have time to develop both? So realistically speaking, will most of us in learning have that, the time and the resources to develop web, iOS, Android, Symbian, whatever else is out there, all kinds of, 5 versions of the same course or the same experience, just to say that we thought mobile first.
Yeah, but I think that's where we kind of get off the rails, right? Like if we go back to what other industries that are dealing with the internet and pushing content out are doing, it's you just publish it once, right? The behind the scenes takes care of everything else, right? I only have to upload one video to YouTube, and then anybody on any device anywhere can watch it. I don't have to make 6 different versions of that video, right? I mean, that's that's really the direction and the place where we need to be. Where if you create some content and let's just go with the learning, content side of things. If we create some learning content and we put it up into our system of choice, that system should be what handles the versioning and being able to make it when somebody accesses that content, then that should present that new content in that experience. I think in the past it used to be left up to the developer, right? And we had to do that because the behind-the-scenes tools weren't all that powerful. Today, I think if anybody is still on their own as a developer on the content creation side, doing multiple different versions of their videos and multiple different versions of things, I think they're wasting their time and they're kind of living in the past. You got to grab a tool that can do that kind of heavy lifting for you.
Right. And I think that's why people are gravitating more toward the tools that you develop once and you publish in HTML5 and now responsive and all that in one package, and the LMS decides, depending on where I am coming from, what device I'm coming from, whether it's going to show me the HTML5 version, responsive, whatever it is, or the native, normally Flash, right, a version of the course that the publisher published once.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess that's what I'm going with. Oh, sorry, James. I didn't mean to jump in.
Okay. I was going to say our shop does a fair amount of mobile development, application development, and e-learn development, and occasionally we still do native, as somebody mentioned, Android and iOS. But for the most part, you can develop an HTML5 now, wrap that in an app using something like PhoneGap. Exactly. So it's kind of like you're saying, where you can build it once, publish it through something like PhoneGap, and it will make it pretty much device agnostic. They even have BlackBerry and Symbian, I think you mentioned.
Yeah.
And so it does require more of a background in coding for the web than it does e-learning development, though, for that. So we need a tool, like if you could publish Adobe Captivate or Storyline or something through PhoneGap. And I've tried. I took a Storyline story, took the HTML5 content, tried to push it through PhoneGap, turned it into an app. It works, but it's sluggish. It's really slow on the back end. It's not optimized for that type of thing. But.
I think again, I think it all, obviously, this always goes back in our world to design and to understanding your audience and understanding what tools they use. And so, if you're working in an authoring tool, my first immediate thought is, okay, you've already made that decision that an authoring tool is required in order to communicate this content to your audience, right? If you're using an authoring tool where a video or a PDF file or some other type of media could have been used just as successfully, then you've already gone off the rails from an instructional design perspective. So you've already made a lot of choices once you go into the authoring space and decide you need all that interactivity and you need to go into that space. And so once you get there.
True, but I would argue that awareness, I mean, I definitely agree with that, but I think there's a certain level of awareness when you're working in a e-learning design and development environment where, oftentimes you may want to do something where, I mean, God forbid, like spit on a PDF, but like, a PDF might actually do the job, or, maybe a web page, or, God forbid, an entry in SharePoint or something. But I think there's definitely not a I think that in a lot of shops there isn't as much of a decision to work with a particular tool, I would say, or even to work with an authoring tool. Like I think you can it's kind of like Henry Ford said, they can have any color they want as long as it's black. Like you can do whatever you want as long as it comes out, basically desktop e-learning. So you're going to be working with an authoring tool most likely anyway.
Right.
So I agree with you, Brent, but I also, I've been through the experience where you're kind of struggling to break free of the particular kind of pattern that you're working in, but that pattern has been created to fit more or less fit the context in which people are supposed to be learning in your organization. Now, whether it fits it very well, that's another argument. But
I'll tell you what context that is. Windows XP, Internet Explorer 2.
Oh yeah, well, Internet Explorer 2. What is that? That's like older than us. No. Well, older than
Well,
me.
I think I'll tell you something. I haven't blogged about this yet. It's something I've been thinking about. I wanted to get a little bit more information myself and get a little bit more information. But I'll tell you what the industry as a whole kind of feels like to me. It feels very much like we're in this space now that's very similar to when e-learning first became a thing. Like when we first started talking, when technology got to the point where we decided to call it computer-based training, and we were developing CBTs, right? And we spent, a lot of time saying, wow, we're trying to help people move from the classroom to computer-based training. And then we spent a lot of time saying, we need people to move from the classroom to online learning. And then we started using the term e-learning. And then it's like, we need to move from the classroom to e-learning. Well, now the tools have gotten so good. We've got the rapid development tools, and we've got this authoring world and there's so many departments now that over the last decade have embraced and developed and spent money, time, resources on these authoring tools that we've now moved out of the classroom, and we've now said that e-learning is developed and courses are created in these tools. And it's almost like this next generation is, how can we tell people to get out of that mindset of the course and you need an authoring tool to create learning content, and move them more into, let's pull all that content out and let's just work with videos. Let's just work with audio. Let's work with text when text is required, and only need to move into that authoring space when it's absolutely needed to go that deep into interactivity. In the same way that we say the classroom is still valuable, right? We still hold face-to-face sessions. We just have very specific reasons why we do it, right? So instead of an all-in or all-out, it almost feels like we need to be moving into this other direction a little bit.
Yeah, it seems like we've we trapped ourselves, right? I think we're all guilty of that. That we, in a sense, education is, this new technology is out. We gotta put it to use. Let's come up with a learning experience that uses that. Now there's gyroscopes out with the iPhone. Well, the first one, we gotta do that. We gotta use that. Yeah, and using it completely out of context just because it's cool.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, and so I think we could. The funny thing is, I don't think a lot of us feel like we can afford to wait, but I think it would really do us well to. You remember when the iPad really started taking your office by storm? I know it probably happened to you. It happened to me. It happened, I'm sure, to Brent and to James and everybody else. Like all of a sudden, people are asking you to develop stuff for the iPad, and you're like, well, all right, it's going to be a little bit difficult. Trends do take us, kind of by surprise. They tend to, and we feel pressed to react, to those new technologies or to, take advantage of things. At some point in the future, I'd like to talk about, the Internet of Things and its possible impact on learning. But one of the things that keeps me from talking about it, and I think we talked a little bit about this in before the show, is that experts in both the Internet of Things and in basically learning sciences, like they're not yet fully baked. At least en masse. Like we need to wait, do some more thinking about this, and have people create some things and try some things out, and then we'll have something to talk about. But that doesn't always, that I don't know if everyone's always stopped by the call to consideration.
Yeah, I would. So clarify your one point really quick before we start to wrap up, because this always seems to catch people, and it's been something that I've been starting to catch myself saying. And so when you say people were asking me to create iPad learning or create learning for the iPad, was that really what they were saying, or were they saying we really enjoy consuming content on the iPad, can you just deliver content to us in the iPad, right? I mean, two very different sort of things, and they may be actually stating it the way you stated it, but
right.
What they're really saying is that we just like the experience that we get with all of the other things that we engage with on the internet via the iPad. Can we get what it is that you do that same way? And,
right.
And I think I mean, it's a semantics sort of thing, but I think it's really important that as an industry that we really start to look at that because, you know, this is like I was saying. I mean, I remember, you know, everybody used to just complain so much about teachers and classroom teachers because classroom teachers were the ones that were so stuck in the past and that everything had to be a classroom. And
Right.
I just kind of feel like
Yeah.
where the last 10 years of authoring tools have taken us is now that world has become the sort of curmudgeon-y stick in the mud. We're not willing to look at anything differently because we've got these tools and I'm learning how to use them. I invested a lot of time in them and I need to create my course in this tool because that's what I do. And so when our customers and our clients and whatnot come to us and they say, do it, then we immediately start to think, oh, okay, so how can I do what I do and deliver that captivate or that storyline experience and everything that I do? How do I put that into what they're asking me to do instead of saying, how do I get all that media out of that authoring tool and deliver it in the style and the fashion that they're comfortable with on these new tools?
No, I totally agree.
Yeah, and not to mention that all these tools are actually, I think it could be a point here, is that all these tools are, it's coming to a point where all of them are pretty much the same thing. They can afford the same things. It's more of a matter of you know, which one did you buy first.
Enzo, no, they're gonna come get you. It was so nice. It was so nice knowing you.
Yeah.
It was like people watching. I don't know this man.
Don't be
His
inarticulate.
webcam's going to go dark.
I don't. Yeah.
If we see a ninja sneaking up behind you, Ninja, we'll let you
And
know.
drop from the ceiling, and I don't want to be anywhere. I have nothing to do with that.
No, in all seriousness, it's becoming the same. You know,
I think the
they are,
output
letting
is
you.
becoming the same in a lot of them, but the practice of building the courses is very different from the different.
Yeah, they all definitely take a different approach, right?
Like the output of what you actually are building is, I think it's more of a matter of how you design it, the design behind it, and actually the tool that you use. Like the workflow may be different and all, but you can achieve very similar results with whether it's Articulate, Captivate, Lectora, whatever it is. The results can be fairly similar.
Right.
You know, so I'm not pro or against any specific tool or anything like that, but I'm just stating to the fact that it's now super status quo in the e-learning that used to be cool. Now it's default, right? I think it goes along with what you were saying there, Brent. And just I think before we close, I wish we could ask James more questions. That's your reviewmyelearning.com. That's your website, your blog, and all?
No, actually, that's one of our products we have out there right now. My personal website is frameentered.com. That's old school. That's from this dot on and frame from for you Flash developers out there. But no, reviewmyelearning.com is a service I'm promoting, so I don't want to spend a lot of time hawking it here. What questions did you have?
I was wondering, you said you develop a lot of mobile learning and all. I mean, when do you see the need to develop a native app versus just developing as a designer there, versus developing something that can be published maybe with Articulate or Captivate or something like that to both desktop and mobile at the same time using HTML5, responsive, etc. And going off of that too, do you see many examples of people that are actually developing learning that is unique in mobile, that is not the same thing that you get on the desktop, you get it in a smaller format or something like that on mobile, but something that uses location-based and all that, you know, that you get with mobile devices?
Sure. So we evaluate when the request comes in from the client and they've outlined what their dream course would be and the different elements that it would involve. We start going through the list of rapid development tools and trying to figure out, how much of this could we complete using Storyline, Captivate, whatever. Some things that cross all those off right away is if somebody wants to, say, run a video across multiple slides. Not any of the tools right now really let you do that. So in one case, we're working with an ad agency, and they have videos on Vimeo, and they already have their closed captioning in there with all the different languages and everything, so they don't want to have to recreate those videos. They want to use the same videos, but they want to add basically like PowerPoint with it, so that you see the text bouncing in and stuff. The video is of a person explaining the PowerPoint. And then they need to put in interactions with that as well and track all that stuff. So that's not really something that you could do. You could throw an embed code into one of the rapid development tools, but as soon as you hit the next button, there's going to be a flash. It's going to, jump and everything. And so you also need to be able to program in, what if somebody skips to the end of the course? Now we have to jump the video to, whatever the timestamp is for the end of it there. So those are things that you can't really get accomplished in any of the rapid development tools. Most of our stuff, we don't end up having to wrap it in an install package for a device, because they're going to just go to the website, log in, and take it there. So there's not really... A lot of times when people ask for an app, when you start asking them, well, what is it you want your app to do, it's just a mobile website. They don't really need an app to get done with what they're doing.
The app is sexy and self-contained in their mind. So.
Yeah. I haven't seen a lot of courses that make great use of the mobile device capabilities, such as location, like you said. It's primarily about portability. That's what they want. They want folks to be able to take the course from the airport, or
I think Captivate 8, and I haven't, and I confess that I've heard this. I've not played with it myself. I believe they have some sort of geolocation. Functionality. There are some non-standard, tools out there like Aris. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. Go ahead and throw that in the. I think it's .org. It's a way to create situated documentaries. Unfortunately, it's iOS only right now, so that cuts me out. Unfortunately.
Fortunately.
But it's a very powerful tool. It's something that's kind of being improved as time goes on on a regular basis. And one of the big things is in creating these situated documentaries, you're using interactions at specific locations. The lens through which you're doing this is your phone, although you can do it through your on your computer, etc. But it's really to be done with your phone at specific locations. And the Aris this tool allows you to actually create an experience like this. I think that's sort of whether it's desktop installed or on the cloud. I feel like that's really kind of, as you kind of alluded, James, like those kind of capabilities that are not really in the things that we are using to build courses or learning experiences. Like I hope that they become more prevalent. So.
Yeah, I was able to build into a Storyline course some geolocation stuff, because like all the tools, you can access variables in Storyline via JavaScript. There's a JavaScript library out there to get the geolocation from the device, so you can push it back and forth that way. It's just not as convenient. I haven't played with Captivates, but I did see a demo on it, and it did look pretty nice the way they implemented it there.
Very cool. I think we're over time, but I've got a meeting coming up at noon, so we should probably wrap it up a little bit. What do you guys think?
Well, someone just pressed their face against my glass over here, so probably. Like it wasn't pretty. Yeah.
One of the authoring guys just.
I know. Who's the authoring tool ninjas thinking I was you? Yeah. See, this is what you've done.
Let's do the usual. Go down the line and close it out. Craig, where can we find you and all that good stuff?
Well, as always, I think all hours of day and night, I'm on Twitter at OXALA75, Oshala75. You can find me at craigwiggins@gmail.com. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, I know, original, right.
I'm just surprised you threw your email address out there to the world like that.
Oh wow.
No, I mean, like at this point, I follow some pretty strict inbox zero stuff. So like, if it's spam or something that I don't care about, like I give people like a second or two before I go like delete. So it's no big deal.
That's why he
Awesome.
did.
Enzo, how about you?
Yeah.
I'm Enzo Silva. You can find me on enzosilva.com.
Cool. What's your Twitter handle?
At Enzo F as in Frank Silva. Enzo F Silva.
Outstanding. James, thanks for joining us, man. Good to see you.
Sure, you too, Brent. You too.
Where do you want us to find you?
Yeah.
I'm on Twitter on Interframe, and blog on interframe.com. No, frameener.com. And where else? elearningenhanced.com, and of course, reviewmyelearning.com.
Wow.
I have a lot of .coms.
Yeah.
On Enterframe. I'm going to follow you now. And join us next week or next time we'll do this, if you can.
Awesome.
We want to hear more about mobile apps and all that stuff you're doing.
That'd be a good place to start. And Brent, where are you? What are you doing here?
Yeah, what am I doing here? Dang it. Yeah, I'm Brent Schlenker. I'm CLO at litmus.com. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. You can find me at bschlenker.com or at bschlenker.com. I'm easy to find. Love doing this with you guys. This has been great.
All right,
And
guys.
Happy New Year to everybody.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. Happy New Year, folks.
Happy New Year.
All right,
All right, take care, guys.
Bye.
Time. We'll try to schedule it earlier this time for people, so we don't just have this thrown in everybody's inbox an hour before they before we
An
run.
hour
So.
or 5 minutes, you said.
Oh yeah, 5 minutes. Okay, yeah. Oops. We'll get it earlier next time. I'll get a whole bunch of them on the calendar, so this will be good. All right, guys, take care.
Bye.